Hello everyone, and in this week's reviews I wanted to try something a little different and catch up on a recent direct-to-video sequel. This is quite an unusual one, as it's a sequel to a well-liked but otherwise largely underseen animated film that the studio has barely even acknowledged in the 10 years since its release. But now it has wrestlers? Here's what I think of Surf's Up 2 WaveMania. To start off, I do really like the first Surf's Up. It was one of those films you sort of walked in not knowing exactly what to expect. And what we got was a funny, witty, and laid-back animated film done entirely in the style of a documentary, and it really stuck to that style. Surf's Up 2 does not, which is the first disappointment with this sequel. There are moments when it cuts to interviews of the characters on a sports network, but the natural spontaneity and inventive camera style that made the first one stand out are otherwise gone in the sequel. I understand this had a much smaller budget, and it was animated at Rainmaker Entertainment rather than Sony Pictures Animation, but it still seems odd to get rid of such a distinctive feature of its predecessor. The animation is passable, at least. The character animation doesn't have quite the same fluidity as the first film, but they're decent, as are the water effects. I never felt like I was watching a shoddy production. The other major disappointment is how Cody Maverick is written. They don't dramatically change his character or anything. He's just exactly the same as he was in the first film. I mean, exactly the same. In Surf's Up 2, he wants to leave his island to participate in a surfing competition and comes across his idol and learns a lesson in humility and that winning isn't everything. Sound familiar? It should, because that was his arc in the first one. I would think the point of a sequel would be to move the characters forward, not have them go through the same thing all over again. It's especially odd to see him talk about the Hang Five as the ones responsible for inspiring him to surf, because that was what he said about Big Z in the first one, who, by the way, is never referenced and doesn't show up again. I kept wondering, is he dead? Is he just on a different beach? It seems like an odd choice to remove this character. How about the wrestlers? How do they fare? Because that's the whole reason this project exists, right? WWE wanted to make a direct-to-video sequel with Sony, and Surf's Up was the property they happened to pick. I don't watch wrestling, but I assume the appeal is the larger-than-life personalities. Yet, from this film alone, I cannot tell you a single thing that makes these characters stand out, which I'm going to blame primarily on the writing. I'm sure they show a lot of character traits in the ring, but they're not displayed here at all. I guess the Undertaker has an appetite? Is that a part of his personality? For being a sequel to a film that didn't have wrestlers, it just seems to assume the audience has prior knowledge of who they are. Here's John Cena. We don't need to develop him beyond the fact that he's John Cena. Triple H? Yeah, he's a man. And Paige, she's a woman. We even made her pink, just so you already know. If you ask me to describe these wrestlers just from their appearances in Surf's Up 2, I would not be able to tell you. I spent about 80 minutes with them, and I don't know a thing about them. Story-wise, the film is pretty weak. It's fairly standard with an episodic plot, as they end up on an island, come across some dangerous terrain, survive it, and they surf a couple times. The surfing, admittedly, is the best part of the film, and Chicken Joe does get some funny little lines here and there. To be honest, I didn't hate this. It's just so middle of the road, and I still don't really know why they made it. Surf's Up 2 WaveMania doesn't really do justice to the first film, and probably does not do justice to the wrestlers. I have not seen the direct-to-video Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, and Jetsons movies that also had wrestlers in them, But if WWE wants to make animated films with their wrestlers as the stars, why don't you just collaborate with Warner Brothers or Sony on an original idea? Then you don't have to battle for screen time with pre-existing animated characters. Just a suggestion. Thanks for watching this week's review, and I'll see you next time.